In this Monday makeup lesson, I'm going to be teaching you how to recreate this makeup look. Hope you enjoy this look, and let's get started. For this look, you will need 2 eyeshadows. One matte midtone, which is at least 1 shade darker than your skin tone. One metallic bronze, either a golden bronze, silver, or in my case, a purple bronze. And you'll also need a black pencil liner and a nude pencil, but this is optional. We're only using 1 brush, so we're using a blending brush. Then mascara, lashes and lash glue, and concealer. So I'm using the concealer as a base, which I've already applied on the lids, and this will create a blank canvas for us to work on. So the first step is to take the blending brush and the matte eyeshadow. You can also use your matte bronzer if you prefer. And we're going to apply this into the crease of the eye. So the crease of the eye is where the eye creases into the eye shape. So we're going to be sweeping the shadow into the crease, blending over and back. We always want to start on the outer edge. Where you place your brush down first will deposit the highest amount of pigment. So we always start on the outer edge and blend in. So sweep from the crease towards the nose and back again. We also want to blend this down onto the lid. And as we sweep down onto the lid, we then want to sweep back up over the crease and up towards the brows. Remembering to leave a small gap under the brows to keep that contrast. So you should end up with something that looks like this. The shadow is predominantly in the crease of the eye, blending down and blending up as if to disperse and blur out the crease shade. This technique is great for hooded eyes as it contours the lid, but also works on most eye shapes. It creates depth, shape, and shadow. The next step is to take your black liner and apply this on the upper waterline. So look down in a mirror and let the pencil run up along the upper lash line. If you can't do this, try pushing the liner between the lashes on the lid instead. I'm going to leave that to settle as it will drop down on the lower lash line, but we'll deal with that later. Now taking the bronze shade, you're going to apply this with your fingertips. So I'm using my pinky and running this along the lash line. Try closing your eyes and feeling for the curve of the lid. It sounds odd, but I think knowing how to apply your makeup without a mirror and feeling for the shape actually improves your overall skills. You want to slowly build this up, and the best piece of advice is to make sure that the majority of the color is on the outer edge, and then sweeping and blending and fading in to that inner corner. And this will complement most eye shapes. Then take your blending brush again and softly sweep out any harsh lines. No need to pick up any extra product, just softly sweep. And then do the same thing on the lower lash line, smudging that bronzy tone under the eyes and making sure the outer edge has the majority of the color and blending in. You'll probably notice that all the smudging has caused the black pencil to drop down a little on the lower lash line. That's actually a good thing. We can use this as we're smudging to create a smokier effect. Then I clean my lower lash line of any black and apply a nude liner, but this is optional, though it does open up the eyes a little more. Apply mascara, lashes, and there you go. That is the finished look. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button. Today I'm going to show you guys how to create this look using this Wet n Wild palette called Silent Treatment. I love these palettes because they're so easy to use, they're nice and small, they're really inexpensive. They actually have little descriptions on the shadow to indicate where you should apply them. However, I do think they're a little different, so let me explain. I'm going to start off with the blending brush, and we are going to take the shade, which is a transition shade. So I often refer to a transition shade as the mid-tone. It's basically creating a transition between your other shadows. That's why I call it a mid-tone, because it's like a middle tone, so it's somewhere in between everything that you're applying. So this is a beautiful sort of mauve-y, almost like a blushy kind of tone. I really like it with this look, and transition shades typically go in the crease area. So the crease area is where the lid creases into the eye shape, but it actually refers to anything above this point, but stopping underneath the brow. And you want it to be nice and soft and blended. That's why you use a blending brush. We're then going to take the shade, which is for the eyelid, and we're going to use a smaller brush. And the reason we're using a smaller one is we want to intensify this. So we're going to apply this all over the lid area. So this is basically going to go from the lash line up towards the transition shade or the mid-tone in the crease. So apply this evenly across the lid, matching up to where the mid-tone starts. Don't go beyond that point. Keep this to the lid, but just get to the very edge where the mid-tone or transition shade starts. You're then going to take what they refer to as the crease shade. Personally, I wouldn't use this in the crease. You could if you wanted to deepen the crease, but I want to use this on the outer edge, and I want to use it as a definer or as my contour. So we're going to apply this on the outer third of the lid, and I'm using a flat brush to give me lots of control. But once I've applied it on the outer third, I then take a soft pencil brush and just soften it out. This is actually the same brush that we use to apply the lid shade. That way you bring everything in together. Then we're going to take that crease shade again, and this time we're going to apply this underneath the eye. So we use that flat brush again and apply this underneath on the outer third. And with that pencil brush that we used before, we're going to soften this out. Really important to keep everything nice and soft and blended. Next, we're taking the brow bone shade, which is the lightest shade, and we're going to apply this with a lip brush or a small detailed brush and apply this underneath the brows. And this will sharpen up the look. The brow bone actually creates a much sharper look because it creates that contrast between what's going on in the crease and the lid. And you can also use this shade on the inner corner, the center of the lid, basically anywhere you want to slightly brighten. And then all you have to do is apply maybe a little bit of liner, lashes, lots of mascara, and you're good to go. For today's Monday makeup lesson, I'm going to show you how to create this glittery smoky eye. It's actually really easy to apply, and you don't need that many eyeshadows or products. So let's get started. As always, I've started off by priming my eyelids using the Urban Decay Primer Potion. You can use concealer and a little bit of setting powder if you prefer. You basically want to create a blank canvas for you to work on. This is particularly important when you're doing a smoky eye. It'll also give the shadows something to hold on to. The first shadow that we're working on is that neutral shade. This should be at least one shade darker than your skin tone and at least 2 shades lighter than the smoky shadow that you're using. So just adjust this depending on your own skin tone and your preferred shades. You're also going to need a blending brush. We're actually going to be using 2, one for applying and one for blending. We're going to start off with the applying one and take a little bit of eyeshadow and start to work this from the outer edge of the eye, blending in. Instead of starting directly on the outer edge, I like to come in a little bit. This will just help with the blending process to make sure we're not blending our eyeshadows out too far. We want to keep our application in between these 2 lines. For regulars here on the makeup chair, you guys probably already know this, but for those who are beginners, you basically want to keep your eyeshadows blending in from this point. And to find this point, you're going to use the edge of your nose, edge of your eye, and edge of your brow, and keep your eyeshadows in from this point, and then create a parallel line for the inner corner, stopping at the tear duct. Don't worry too much about the inner corner, just really make sure you're focusing on that outer corner, blending over and back. So how do you blend? Well, what I like to do is I like to keep my hand quite low when I blend. This will just allow me to sweep over and back in the crease of the eye. And this is where the lid creases into the eye shape. You want to keep this nice and soft and blended. It should fade pretty much upwards towards the brows, but by the time it reaches the brows, it should be very sheer. You should also apply the shadow all over the lid. This will actually create a layered effect and help with the blending process for your smoky shade. As we're not using any other eyeshadows today, I really want to make sure this blend is perfect, so I'm taking a clean blending brush, so this doesn't have any product on it, and we're going to sweep this over and back to blend out any harsh lines. And now we're going to take our smoky shade. I'm going to use a flat brush, but also my fingertips to apply the shadow. We really want the darkness to be at the lash line, and there's 2 ways of doing this: keeping your hand nice and low, or lifting your hand high and coming at the lash line at a higher angle. Do whatever works for you. And then I'm also going to be using my fingertips to apply it on the lid. This just allows me to work the black shadow into the lid. Once I've done that, I then take my blending brush. This is the one that was used previously, and softly sweep over and back to blend out what I applied with my fingertips. Now this brush will have a little bit left over from the previous shade, but that will actually help with the blending process. And all you want to do is to apply and blend until you get the depth of color that you like. Making sure that that lash line is nice and deep and dark and blending upwards into nothing by the time it reaches the brows. I then applied some mascara and lashes off camera, and we're going to continue by applying the glitter. I'm using this Urban Decay palette, which has some gorgeous glitters, and I'm using the Neon Moon shade. And I'm going to apply this with my fingertips just so I can really press this onto the lid. Sometimes I feel like your fingertips do a much better job with a lot of different shadows, particularly with this type of glitter. And you only want to saturate the lid starting in the center and then blending out. I'm then going to take a metallic eyeshadow. So this is very similar to the glitter, but it's more of a metallic sheen. And we're just going to apply this on the inner corner of the eye and also underneath the brows. The glitter won't give the same effect here, so we have to use metallic eyeshadow. I then took my flat brush and a little bit more of that black eyeshadow, and I just applied this on the outer 2/3 of the lower lid. And that is the finished look.